Yeah. I think I started writing book four. I wrote the first 4 or 5 chapters of book four when I sent Scarecrow to Parissa the first time, and it became Scarecrow and Shadow. I always make that distinction. I'm going to stop eventually. The biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today is this notebook right here. So, just in case anyone is curious, this is the full existing manuscript for the third book. So you see that these are not equitable in size, right? Just in case you see this and think that this is a full manuscript. No, it is not. What this is a set of outlines for the books that are coming. And so I began a while back, I can't remember when exactly, last year perhaps, I began working on the fourth book. It may have actually been in 2020 or so. This is how I keep track of what is coming. So the current outline for book 4 is about 13 pages long, which is, I would say, fairly intact. It is what it is. That outline is the strongest and the closest to what I want. The outline for book 5 is only about 9 pages long, but I already have the epilogue written for that book. But that's because of what it ties back to. This is going to change. This outline there will be some fairly, I almost said ridiculous, changes. Not ridiculous. There will be some changes, and significant. Not necessarily changing the shape or direction, but certainly the details are fuller. Then for book 6, I literally have just a couple pages of notes, very bare bones outline. And then for book 7, I have 3. So obviously the last few books are not as well detailed because I just had broad strokes, and there are things that I need to know to fill in those blanks, and those need to know things come out of writing the rest of the series. So I'm not sure how other people write, other writers, I know some like to thoroughly outline, others prefer to just kind of let the story dictate itself. And I love that. I actually just wrote a short story for the anthology that is a ghost story, just a straight up ghost story that exists within the world of Glint and Shade. And it relates to a story that characters tell in book 3. And I love a good ghost story. And I wouldn't say that this is the best ghost story. It is just an interesting ghost story. I think it's a good ghost story, but it was a lot of fun to write. And the only thing that I had was the beginning, meaning there was this haunted place. That's it. That's all I knew. I know it's haunted because of what happens that we learn about in the third book. And this location may actually be a critical point later in the story. But for right now, that is irrelevant. The relevant thing was why this place was there. I'll tell you, it's the story is called The Haunted Well of Thrin, or that's the name of the story right now. But it is about a haunted well, and I just got to start. I thought, what would be interesting to do, rather than telling a full version, epic scale version of the story we already know from book 3, tell a new story about that location, basically a ghost story. Um, and so all I knew was, I thought, what if a guy brings his wife and kids to to build like a farm? There's this well, perfectly wonderful well in the middle of this open land right near the mountains. And I realize it's perfectly situated between Taiflik, Lustre, Valine, and Tragan, and in a sense it would be a great ways place like Throm is in Carde. Thrin would be a great ways place in Austrost. A ways place is basically a central hub where people who are traveling from one major village or city to another can stop to restock supplies, to get a good bath, that kind of thing. Which is why Throm is such a bustling village in the middle of nowhere. It's a ways place. All roads to or from anywhere go through Throm, basically. And so this guy has this guy, I realize, has the same idea that Thrin would be a fantastic place for a ways place, and it would be very lucrative, make him a lot of money. So what if this guy goes with these high hopes, this almost like a get rich quick scheme, only he doesn't realize that the reason the well is abandoned is because it's haunted as fuck. Yeah, so that was fun. Literally, my starting point was him and his family moving there to build up a farm, a ranch, that he then intends to turn into a ways place over time. So I didn't have an outline. I just let it flow, and that was a lot of fun. But when it comes to writing novels, I don't prefer writing that way, especially with the depth and complexity that is involved in this series. There are so many things that commingle and interlock and are related to each other and correlate either directly or indirectly, adversely, that I need to keep really good track of all those changes. And so I have been brainstorming my larger outline. In particular, this week I spent a good bit of time thinking through how the final book would play out, because it has been the weakest. I have 3 pages of notes rather than 2 pages for the 6th book, mainly because most of those notes are these are the things that I have to finish up. These are the questions that I have to answer, kind of thing. These are the things that I have to remember to tie off, and finish up. Which, for those of you who've read my books and have complained that I don't answer enough of your questions, it's because a lot of your questions are not meant to be answered until later in the series, many of which not until the end of the series. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, not every question you have will be answered. Some of those questions you will have to infer answers, and that's because I want you to think. I want you to I don't want to spell everything out. First of all, I don't like reading literature where everything is spelled out and every answer is neatly answered with a nice little tidy bow, and I know everything. For one thing, I think that is impossible or implausible to try and answer every question. I am going to miss things, and there will always be things that I don't answer, I don't address. There will be things that you as readers will see in the writing that I don't even think to answer. I mean, I'm not trying to be like bougie author who, the story is the story and it's a living, breathing thing. No, I know I'm making this shit up, but it doesn't feel like I'm making it up. A lot of the time, the story is fully intact in my mind. I know that it's still my imagination. I'm not saying that it's somehow birthed from the ether. Although I think that there is at least some merit to that idea. At the very least, I write from a more what I hope is a more realist perspective, a more realistic, authentic way of writing fantasy, so that everything is cause and effect. That doesn't limit my creative scope, but it does, by design, give me some direction. Because if this happens, this cause happens, it can have perhaps multiple effects or a series of effects, or it could have a few different effects, and other circumstances would determine which effect it actually had, right? But still, these are the effects that this cause could cause, not something over there. You know what I mean? Like, I need to know that what my characters are doing, what is happening in the story, is happening because cause and effect says, yes, that is logical, that makes sense. And I pay so much attention to that sometimes when my beta reader or my editor or even my reviewers are like, I felt like bleh, like I felt lost, or I felt confused, or I felt like I didn't have enough questions answered, I want to say, listen, trust me. Trust me. Trust me. As the writer, there is a strong possibility that there is a reason for whatever it is that you're having an issue with. There's a reason, and it is there intentionally. Now, yes, I'm over descriptive. That's just the way I write. So I guess it is intentional, but also it's just my writing style. I'm not making an excuse for that. It just is what it is, and that's generally the way I will always write. Although I will try and be aware of how descriptive I'm being, and I let my beta reader and my editor just listen. Be thankful. If you think I'm descriptive now, be thankful that they're editing my work before you get to it, because you wouldn't make it, probably. Anyway, so because of cause and effect, because of like realistic ambitions and reactions and emotions and motivations and all of those things, there are very specific reasons and very specific outcomes to certain circumstances. And so in a big way, those dictate the story. Like, I'm not just going to make something up. And this is very different from the way I used to write, wherein I would think, all right, so they're here, and then they're here, and then I want them to get down here. But there was no logical reason for them to come down here. That was a big problem with the first book. I needed them to get here by the end of that book, and I couldn't come up with a reason that made sense. And by the time I ended up writing that into book 1 and book 2, and I got to that point in the second book, I knew the characters enough to understand this is how that would happen. This is why that would happen. And it wasn't what I tried to manipulate into making happen in the first draft. There are so many layers to this story that I'm constantly like working out scenes or details or part of the bigger tapestry. And this past week, I was brainstorming the final book because it's arguably the one that's going to be the most complex and the most complicated, because it's going to be the last one. And I need to satisfactorily answer all the questions that need answers, that are imperative to be answered, and answer several maybe that the readers haven't even thought to consider, whatever. And then, so I recorded it as a video. Perhaps I'll show you some snippets of those at some point. But so I do that sometimes when I'm driving back and forth to work in Statesboro, Mondays through Thursdays. I will brainstorm an idea, and when it begins to take shape and kind of coalesce into something solid and tangible, I will just hit record on my phone, which is on my little magnetic phone holder up near my rearview mirror, and I will record myself talking out that idea or talking out that scene or outline or whatever. And so I did that for the the 7th book last week. And only after, when I was digging through some old files, did I find a document that I wrote in 2020 that outlined every book in the series. Like just a paragraph snippet, like an overview. This is basically what happens in this book. I'd forgotten. I still don't remember writing it. So it's interesting to see how the story has evolved from that beginning outline in this notebook, you know, and then in 2020, this overview document that I did for each of the books in the series, to last week when I'm brainstorming the last book in the series and how more is added on. The original outline is in black ink, and then when I made edits the first time, I made those, or added or changed, I made those in red. And then the next round of updates to the outline I made in blue, and then the next round of updates I made in purple, just so that I could see the progression and remember if in the process of working through the outline, if I saw something there was contradictions between parts, I would say, well, this was written in black, this was in purple, which means the purple is the newer idea, which means it's probably stronger than the first idea because I've written the first 2 books or the first 3 books or whatever since then. So one of the things that I'm planning on doing after I get my manuscripts to my editor next month, the first step is then to work through all of the new terms that will be included in the 3rd book. I'm not including any terms in the anthology, so any anthology terms that are new will be included in book 3, just to save the amount of formatting and things that needs to be done for the anthology, and that will be the standard way I will do those going forward, that I will only have a glossary of terms at the end of the main books in the series. And once again, in case I haven't mentioned this recently, the anthology and the first 2 books I plan to bundle as an ebook bundle and sell those as a promotion at a discounted rate to promote the launch of book 3. And I am in way over my head and don't have a clue what I'm doing, even after all this time, on how to launch and market a book. I've done no marketing. I do have business cards coming for Scarecrow with a QR code for a free download, but I don't even want to talk about that right now. We'll do that in another video. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and having a good time. It's summer. It is hot as here in Georgia, but the heat index last week was 116, and it's been in the upper 90s. I don't know about upper 90s. It's been in the 90s every day. Oh my God. It's nasty. Nasty out. Humidity. Blah. I don't have anything more motivational to say than that because I'm a little bit today. I don't know why I do that. Why I blow kisses. I worked with a guy named Mike who helped me with some of my marketing. You know, I've mentioned him before, and I've probably mentioned this before, but I tend to repeat myself. You didn't think I was going to go through this whole video without repeating myself, that I repeat myself, right?